Welcome to Trenchometry. If you've spent any time in or around the trenches, playing offensive line isn't just blocking, it is chess at light speed. You're controlling angles while a 280-pound defender tries to destroy your running back. Every snap, calculating leverage, mirroring footwork, and anchoring against pure violence. Miss one step, and your franchise player gets flattened. We're here to discuss the most undervalued aspect of the game of football, the offensive line. Remember, you master the trenches, you'll win the war. My guest today is coming to us from the great state of Utah, where he's a former first responder and now a fitness coach, developing both athletes, adults, and future football players. He coaches a U10 football team that just finished an impressive fall season, coming to the FBU National Championship Series. He guided the U10 Utah Football University team to Naples, Florida, competing against teams from all over the country. He began his football journey as a center, playing for the prestigious Euless Trinity High School out of the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. You may know this school through their rendition of the Haka war dance. He was a two-time all-district and all-state lineman during his career and prided himself on being technically proficient, which was essential playing as a self-proclaimed undersized center. He looks forward to returning to Naples to claim a national title next year with his U10 team. Today, I would like to welcome Mr. Dustin Simmons to Trenchometry. Dustin, welcome. Glad you're here today.
Thanks, man. Thanks for the intro. Appreciate it.
So you get into this FBU thing. Let's start off hot, right? Get into this topic because this is a big deal, particularly where I am down here in Naples, where we have the national championship. These teams are coming from all over the country. Describe that process of how you get this team, how you end up with that team. And is it 25, 30 kids that you're bringing down here?
We went down with 23 kids, 22 kids, 22 to 23 kids. But yeah, the process, that is a process. So first, you got to come coach your regional team and you got to do something well. And it's a little bit of a political thing, unfortunately. But once you get into the coaching aspect of it and you get yourself immersed in that little culture, you build a team out. So the head coach and his buddies, they kind of got on with me and said, hey, we're looking for an offensive line coach. And we knew that they had played against me. So that made me feel good. Mm-hmm. So they got with me and we got together, put a little team together, and then more kids just kept coming. So you host tryouts for a couple, I think November 1st you can start. So you got from November 1st till we got down there the week before Christmas. So you have a month and a half to put a team together and get play calling done and get them ready. And that's all you have. So we started putting team together. We had like 7 practices. That's about it. And we came down to Florida and did really well. We got scored on only in our last game. So
did you guys make it to the championship game?
Yeah, we made it to
That's awesome. I didn't realize you guys made it to the championship game.
We made it all the way to
who were you playing? What state were you guys playing in that?
We played, the first team we played was Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky or Western Kentucky, I can't remember. It's like 22-0. So I'm a trench guy, right? Our big boys got to run the ball. So that was the coolest aspect. We have X-Men rules over here. So it means like once you get a certain weight, you can't run the ball here. Right. But our big boys, I got a 250-pound kid that got the ball. It was fun to see the big boys run on those games. And then the next team we played was, what was it? Not Kentucky, because that's who we first played. I can't remember where the second team was. But we beat them like 32-0. We threw a pass to our center. So we got him out as a wide out, threw a pass to him. And he missed it, but the fact that he was playing a wide out and he got up there. And then our next team we played was GFL, which they breed kids over there. It's a Georgia team that's Gwinnett something, but they put a team together, some monsters on their team. Obviously they had a lot of talent, really well coached. And then they mopped the floor with us, but it was fun to get up there and play against them too.
So you have a 250-pound kid at 10.
The kid deadlifts 315 pounds.
Holy shnikes. That's amazing.
Squats 275, benches 175 for like 3 reps. The kid's a monster, right? That's the biggest kid the heaviest kid on our team. Not the biggest kid, but yeah, we got some big kids.
Good gosh. That's part gorilla right there. I don't know what to say to a 10-year-old walking out on the field that big. I'd want to see a birth certificate immediately.
Well, let me tell you what, if I'm 5'7", and if I would have put pads on, I would not have even been in the top 5%.
Oh yeah.
There was a kid on the team that in GFL that was probably 6'2", 280 pounds. The running back was 5'9", 185.
They have some big dudes.
So once you get to that level, the age of the kids become irrelevant almost, because the only thing that's the age of the kid is what's up top, like they're in their head. But the body size, they become full-on adults at that point. I mean, some of those kids are older than my 15-year-old kid who plays varsity high school football.
Yeah.
So it's just a different level of expectation up there at that high of a level at FBU.
That reminds me, I had a chance to coach an Army All-American game a few years ago, probably, I don't know, about 10 years ago now, and my wife commented while we were at the all-star banquet with all the kids, and their parents and brothers, sisters, whatever, and my wife looked at me and she goes, "You know what's the common denominator amongst all these kids?" And I was like, "What?" She goes, "Look at the dads." And I look at the dads, and some were big, tall, short, big, fat, muscular, skinny, whatever, nothing common. She goes, "It's not the dads." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I recognize that." And she says, "Look at the moms." And all the moms were like 6 foot, 6'1". None of them were like super tall. And they weren't necessarily like what probably people would consider overweight, but they were just thick women that were just 6 foot, 5'11", 6'2", at somewhere in that range. And they had all their babies were these just size linemen, like 6'9", 310. And none of the moms were like these little tiny itty bitty women that had these big monsters. They were all like solid 6 foot women.
Right.
And so I can only imagine that most of the moms running around in the stands kind of fit that build with those kids
Well,
being that size.
yeah, we're in Utah, so we got a huge Polynesian community, and moms and dads are just massive people. Like
Big,
I love it.
big folks.
Love it. Why the reason I'm 5'7" and my boy is 6 foot tall at 15 because my wife's family, they're big, right? So that's what you got to do. You got to find the big wives.
Find a tall lady and have babies. That's the secret. So let me ask you this question too, because when you wrote this to me, it piqued my interest. Do you guys teach the kids the Haka dance before they go out and play in the
Uh,
U10 team?
some of our kids know the Haka, and some of my kids on my personal regional team, they want to teach the Haka to the boys to get them going fired up. But no, we didn't teach the Haka to.
I gotta think that'd be a little intimidating coming out, seeing a bunch of 10-year-olds doing that on the football field.
So, but we do a couple things that's kind of reminiscent of the Haka. Like we do 2 claps. They go, give me 2 claps and a ah, and then 2 claps, and everybody says ah, and then 2 claps and a ah, ooh ah, and then they all do it together. And then the very last one is 2 claps and a Haka, and then all the kids just lose their mind. It really sets the tone for. And to be honest, like my team was probably the most hyped up team to get on the field that I saw. That other team that we lost to just so much more bigger than us and better,
Yeah.
just bigger athletes. But my team was just, they are hyped up. It's definitely a war chant. They're ready for war. So it's
That's
fun.
phenomenal. So, and your son was your center, right? I think you told me that your son was your center on the team. So,
My son was a center on the team. We played multiple kids at the team because
okay.
my son, my personal son, he's a little undersized for the FBU team. I coached it. He got to join. My older son, he's big, and he's a bigger athlete. My younger son is not as big as those kids, so he didn't get to play he get to play almost every game, but he wasn't my starting center just because I don't play daddy ball either.
It's hard to put yourself in a position there, don't you, when you have a son on the team? It's having coached the high school down here at Naples, and 2 of my sons came through. It was hard not to. It was hard. It was a hard situation when you see things happening that maybe not going for him or might be going against him. It's hard to sit back and just let things happen. But those
It's
guys
tough
that
not
do that,
it's tough not to play daddy ball, but at
hmm
the same time, he will be better for it too. Like he knew that going into that, like those kids were deadlifting 300 pounds and he's never worked out before in his life. He's 10
yeah,
years old, right? So like he went into that expecting I'm going to get better. And we had that conversation with each other and they're like, hey, this is a good opportunity for you to be around the best kids. And we did. And it turned out that he actually performed a lot better than I thought he would,
mm,
just because my younger son is like me, he's shorter. So he has to be a lot more technical. He has to get good leverage. He has to put his hands in the right place. He has to know beforehand where he's going. If he messes up, he's not as quick as some of these kids that are running as fast as they can. Like, so he has to be a lot more technical. And because me and him work on football IQ and things like that a lot, he did really well.
yeah,
I would not say he could have started on that team and done just as great as the other center. And he had to replace the other center a couple times because he was messing up in other things like snapping and
mm,
taking on a nose guard. So I didn't get to it. He will next year. He'll probably be a starter on that team if we continue on, unless another kid comes up and he's a dog. So
yeah. It's funny. I think both my sons, I think, were better with it than I was, and I didn't. I was hands off. I did everything in my power to keep myself out of the situation. On one occasion, I think I asked something to be done in probably 6 years of having my guys in the program. But having talked to them now, I think my boys understood the whole situation much better and were much more willing and able to deal with the situation happening with them and around them and to them than I was watching it from outside the situation. And it ended up being pretty good that I stayed back out of the way for them to just grow up and develop those skills that you need as an adult to cope and defend yourself, protect yourself, or justify yourself, or whatever the situation was at that time. So that's hard. It's hard for dads, man. It's hard for dads to get in that situation. All right, so let's get into the technique here. You said you have 6, 7, 8 practices.
Yeah.
How are you approaching that with your guys up front? Like that's a truncated amount of time for you to get in and get an offense established, get some drills done, get some drill work on that technique, like you said. What were
So,
your priorities as you got into this process?
so with priorities first, number one is I got to speak the same language as the kids.
Mhm,
And I think that's probably where every coach has their own language to talk to people. And so where you and I might speak a different language, but we're saying the same thing, right? So my first thing is I had to understand these kids really quickly. So my first practice is we went through and I said, what is this called? And everybody called it something different, right?
mhm,
So zone step, power step, reach step, like they were just calling them different things. And I said, okay, let's call this.
mhm,
So once we started speaking the same language really quickly, again, though, at that level, those kids are all, even though they're good athletes, they they understand the game of football. So it didn't I just speak in the language like, okay, we can just call it this. Inside out blocks, pull blocks, or like when I was telling them how to pull. I didn't need to teach a lot of technique to the kids because they had a whole season already. I just got to speak the same language.
mhm.
Once we started speaking the same language, then we installed plays really quickly. And once we installed quickly, rep, 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 rep. And that's it. My first 30 minutes of every practice was running the exact same reps of every play that you had to do for the first 6 practices. And then the last practice, we had a little fun. Like,
Mhm,
I also did things outside of practice. I sat here on I created a loom and I explained every single blocking technique that they needed to learn at every single position. I sent it to the kids. And that's probably how they ended up really getting it. And then once they understood that they knew what they were doing, it was easy. It was just, I got athletes. Now I just got to tell them, hey, remember this. Oh, yeah. Sorry, coach. Boom. And they were able to. So that
that's
FBU team, it was a lot less development and it was more action. Let's install.
yeah, I think that's a great point because I coached in an all-star game one time with a gentleman, and he came in and we started to tinker together an offensive approach, a philosophy, and he got up there and he was the offensive coordinator and he would refer to things. He'd be like, well, this is leopard, snow, tiger, trout. And I was like, what? Like, wasn't using football terms. He was using specific terms that, formation was leopard and trout was I don't know, a
Yeah.
run pass or whatever it was. Instead of getting up there and being like, okay, we're getting a right formation. I right, and we're going to run crossing route or mesh or something like that. It was it. We spent hours, coach. I'm not exaggerating. We spent probably 8 hours just defining what terms were instead of coming up with 10 terms, 8 plays, 10 plays, whatever. I mean, you got a week, same type of thing in an all-star. We had 4 practices or 5 practices in an all-star situation. And then we're on TV playing a game against this other team. And
Yeah.
we spent the first 8 hours, I wouldn't even say bickering, just kind of defining stuff that you would, like you said, oh my gosh, it was,
And that's another thing. Like I'm putting coaches together that's an all-star team, and then we're putting kids together. So before we even jumped on the field to coach a kid, the coaches have to speak the same language too,
mhm,
because that's the biggest thing. And then whenever like this has happened a couple times during our practices, one coach would say, you need to hit the top shoulder. And I was like, those kids don't understand what top shoulder means,
yeah,
right? So like, hey, I'm like inside out block, or when you pull right, hit your right shoulder, hit them with your right
yeah,
shoulder. Like when you start dumbing it down for the kids, but you've also got to dumb it down for the coaches, each other.
mhm,
A lot less is a lot more. The less plays you have also in that situation like that. My regional team, we had 100 plays. So stupid. I
oh,
don't want to do that. Don't do that. Anybody that's coaching youth football, don't do that. My FBU team, we had 34 plays, and they
yeah.
were every time we executed, it was like almost like perfection for a youth team, right?
Coach, that's massive. I think we won a Florida 5A state championship with about 26 or 7 uh, at the most. I don't know if I don't know if I've been able to remember 100 plays myself. That's
Yeah.
impressive. You got 10-year-olds to run around and be able to do that.
hold on, because I hope my coach watches this. I'm gonna make sure whenever it does come out, I send it to him, and I wanted to understand that too. We had
Yeah.
this conversation, right? But my wristband for my quarterback, we only have one quarterback wristband, had 100 plays on it. Had three little folds you had to get through,
It
but
looked like an accordion. It was
pretty
one of
much,
those travel maps. You had to
pretty
open it
much.
up.
They did it. It was good. It was fun. We won a championship over here too in regional season.
That's phenomenal. With okay, so as you get into your season, go back into your season then, what is it that you're prioritizing with your own team before you get into this FBU situation
Yeah,
with an all-star situation? What are you going through your daily practices? And I'm assuming you guys probably practice 5 days a week with your
yeah.
pre-FBU team?
Yeah. So at the beginning, we can practice 5 days a week, and then there's some restrictions like 3 days a week, and then pad it up or something like that. But essentially, it's just on a bigger scale, a lot more slow down everything. And so we do lots of reps. I mean, I put kids on boards. We take our zone steps right, zone steps left, reach steps left and right. My personal team, we do a little bit of outside zone, and then we do more gap scheme than anything. And then we call it big on big or pass pros and sets and things like that. But I just go through every practice. We try to go through the exact same things and then translate it back over to the plays, right? We be in a gap scheme. I mean, every time I tell the kids, hey, if the ball's going to that way, which way do you step? I'll step that way. You just take it a lot slower, explain the game a little bit more, a lot more practices with the kids so I understand where the kids are going to mess up during the games and things like that. So when the kid does mess up in the game, I'm like, hey, we talked about that, remember? I don't coach youth football to win championships. It just happens that we won like a second, like a goal. It's a silver championship is what we won over here. We did win one. That's great. I'm really ready. I want to set the kids up for the best for their high school career so that when they get to high school career, the high school coaches can take them to their college career if they want to go that route. That's mostly been my philosophy about coaching for the 10 years that I've been coaching is just really setting them up for the next level. And
Right.
so I always teach my kids, even at 7 and 8 and 9, 10, even all the way up to coach all the way up to 14-year-olds. But I always teach them what they're going to learn in high school. So if they're going to run a gap scheme, I teach them what the gaps are.
Mhm.
Some other kids in other teams, they don't know what a 2, 4, 6, and 8 hole are. They just
Yeah.
know the ball's going to Rhino, so I only do a zone right, right? They only know that little bit. But when you get to high school, not a lot of high schools are just doing zone, inside zone and outside zone. Like
Right.
we're mostly doing like gaps and things like that. They're a little mixture of everything. So I try to teach them really well. And I've had the kids that I've had right now for the last 4 years. And they understand most of everything, and all they got to do is execute now after reps, after reps, after reps, after reps. Because that's the most important thing for kid is just lots of reps of the exact same things. Don't overload them with a lot of words and things like that. Just kind of make them speak the language again that you speak.
Yeah.
And then it becomes really easy and becomes a lot more fun. And that's kind of what keeps them in there is keeping it fun for them also.
Yeah. I never wanted my players thinking. I wanted them
Yeah.
not necessarily reacting because I wanted them to be proactive
Yeah.
without thinking. Know what your assignment is, know what you're supposed to do. Put your hands here, put your eyes there, point your toe this direction. Pad level should be low. You're going to explode. You're going to push. You're going to bounce, bound, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it, whatever the technique, and then get to this position. And the more they're thinking or trying to remember what does this play mean, or what does that do, or how does this tag? What all these words? You watch these NFL films and you watch the quarterback call the play, and it's a paragraph. And it's scary because he's got to know that, like everybody that hears their little buzz, their buzzword such situations, they got they got 3 words in that paragraph that apply to them, and 3 words apply to this guy, and 3 words apply to that guy. And the poor quarterback's got to know the whole paragraph. And
Yeah.
I'm
Crazy.
always like, oh my gosh, can't we shorten that somehow? Or it boggles my mind. And so I was always trying to reduce words. I never wanted to use something that meant 2 things. Also, that was another thing. If you're going to use the word right for formation, you can't use it again for a play call, because if they only hear the word right if they're tired or throwing up or breathing hard, or the guy next to them's breathing hard, they're asking questions and they only hear one word, it might be the wrong way to use that particular word. So that was something I was always aware of too. As an offensive coordinator, I didn't want that to be a situation of confusion.
Yeah.
But gosh,
No joke. I have a friend or a guy I know. He coaches the wide receivers for St. John Bosco. and he's
Mm.
telling me their play calls. And he's like you and I will be like a lot more simple things. But at St. John Bosco, that's another level with team. And he's like, they're like 30 words to one. This 17-year-old kid's got to understand all these words. Man, that kid doesn't even know what he had for breakfast. And
Yeah. Or
so
he's looking at the cheerleader on the sideline and didn't hear any of it.
living with the moms and the jugs. And
It's unbelievable. All right. So what are some of the hurdles and obstacles that you find yourself encountering coaching particularly with the 10-year-olds? Because I would think that there's probably a lot more coaches out there that coach 10-year-olds than people that coach 14-year-olds. That pyramid goes, the older you get, the more skinny the pyramid gets at the top. So the closer the bottom of the pyramid age-wise, I would think there's a lot more 10-year-old coaches out there than there are high school varsity coaches and college coaches, as you funnel down. So what are some of the obstacles that you face that others might run into that you've seemed to have calculated and solved that might be a solution to help other guys that are in your situation? With
well,
that, particularly with the offensive line guys.
yeah, well, offensive line, and it doesn't matter who it is, but offensive line especially, you have to make it very simple for them. Like this, and we've been talking about this for 5 minutes, 10 minutes already. If you the more simple you can make a play call for an offensive lineman, the more successful your team's going to be, because that's where the battle is, right?
Mhm.
Like if the offensive line is not there, a running back's going to run right into a linebacker, right? If the offensive line and defensive line are not playing up to par, then you're going to know, right? So in particular, my offensive line guys, making it very, very easy. And the buzzword thing you said, if you can make a buzzword about a play, that will make the kids understand, and making
Yeah.
it fun for the kids, right? I want my kids to learn high school level football at 10 years old still, but sometimes I have to make it a play that is specific for two players, right? Like I have a play that's called Bash, and it's reference to the Bash brothers from Mighty Ducks, right? I got these
Mhm.
two boys, they go and they do a GT. I called it GT to begin with in the first of the season, but they couldn't understand what the GT meant, right? But so we called it Bashed, and the rest of the season, no problems at all.
Did you
So
have to show them the movie in order to make it fit, or did they?
I still don't think they understand. I mean,
Okay.
I'm 40 years old. They're like 10, right? That movie's probably 30 years old to begin with.
Someday they're going to see that movie and they're going to be like, ah.
Aha. Right. So, but making it very simple for kids and not overcomplicating it. Sometimes it literally can be push the man in front of you, like just get in front of them. Right. But when they mess up, I mean, I am not one of these feel good coaches, but there is a point where you can't push a kid and scream at a kid. Like, I don't like that either. I'm very tough with them, but it's more like, do you understand what you messed up on? If you don't, we just went over that. Right. That's the kind of communication I'll have with a child versus what are you doing? My pet peeve of youth football is all the parents from the sideline going, line, you got to block.
Yeah.
No, you think
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to say stuff like that.
Well, that's what I've been
That's
doing
what
wrong.
they're there
Yeah.
for. No, but making it very simple will make your team be more efficient. And if we can get efficient teams, then you can start adding fun stuff in there. But
Mhm.
be efficient at your inside run zone, outside run zone, or gap scheme, whatever you're going to work on. Be efficient at that, then add some stuff on. But until you're efficient at what your base is, don't do anything else. Don't add in reverses. Don't add in super hard bubble routes and mesh. Like I'm not a wide receiver. All I know is when it's a pass play, you pass set left or pass set right, or you stay
Mhm.
up, you're straight. You'll do better for my kids. So, but making it efficient and making it easy to understand and efficient, make them so much better. Your whole team better, just easier.
It's funny you mentioned the parents coaching. I had a conversation with a coach, and this kind of transcends all sports. I was having a conversation with another coach that coaches a different sport this morning, and he was talking about one of his cohorts that he's coaching with and what he was coaching during the game. And he kept saying, "Proud of you. You guys are working hard. You're working hard." And the gentleman I was speaking to said, "What does that mean? What does working hard mean on a basketball court? Like, you're not saying you're playing good defense. You're staying in good defensive posture. You got a hand in his face, get a hand in the passing lane. Make sure you don't overset on your pass sets or on your defensive sets on the basketball court. Make sure you're boxing out." Not like there wasn't anything specific that was happening to make those guys focus on getting better or improving, eliminating an error. If you're doing 10 things wrong, you start with one thing. You don't do 10 corrections at once. because then you might end up having 15 things wrong. But you pick one aspect of it. If it's a foot, or the kid doesn't understand what he's doing, or he doesn't understand the angle, you be very specific and you coach that point out of that kid until you can move it to 9 things to worry about. And if you're just saying block, hey, block somebody from the sidelines or from the stands, the kid now he's like, well, I know I'm supposed to block somebody, but how do I do it? That's a huge issue. And another thing, I have all these ideas bounced around in my head. Whatever, the CTE clicks in pretty quick when I start talking football. Do you have kids? Do you have to overcome the intimidation factor of running into somebody at 10? Is that already been kind of coached
Um,
out of them at the previous level?
So no, not every kid, right? But
Mm,
so the way they do it here is we have A-centered teams, right? So I get to pick the best of the best because I'm the A coach, right? I'm one of the A coaches. So I get to pick the best of the best of the kids that are in my age group. And then
mhm,
there's more developmental leagues as we get down, right? But even at my A-centered team, and then I still have to deal with the kids that doesn't want to get hit, right?
mm,
Wide receivers don't want to block yet. Sometimes um, a bigger kid doesn't want to hurt somebody,
mhm,
because I had a 6'2" kid on my team, 195 pounds. And he had the aggression, but he just couldn't figure out how to do it and not hurt somebody. Once in a while, it'd turn on and it actually end up hurting somebody. But yeah, I still have to deal with that. How do you deal with that though? Like it's a tough, like, tenacity and
because that poor kid, his whole life, they've been saying, "Don't hurt him. You're so big. You're going to hurt somebody. Don't." I kind of fell into that category. I was always the biggest kid in the center of the picture of the class. First grade picture, I'm in the middle. Second grade picture, I'm in the middle. Third, like all the way through, I'm in the middle. So I kind of relate to that. I understand that. That's hard to. It'll be fun for him when he gets in
when
the
he
same
clicks.
size crowd. Then he can kind of turn it loose. He's been storing up all this aggression for all these years, not wanting to
Yeah.
step on somebody. But
Yeah.
that's a hard thing. How did you solve it with him? Were you able to break through with him?
Yeah, well, the problem with him now is not his aggression. We get to the point where he's like, "I can fight now, I can do it." Mechanics of his body, right? He's
Mm,
10 years old, he's 6'2", hips are very, very tight. So what does he do? He stands straight up.
mhm.
At 6'2", you stand straight up, you got a 5 foot lineman, D line hitting you right in the stomach. So I mean, we got him turned on to a little bit more aggression. How do we get it solved? It's tough because you put him into a place where he succeeds first, is what we did. What I usually do, I put them in a place where they can succeed. So yeah, I might have got him against someone like my son who's only 4'7", like that,
Mhm,
and he was able to push him around. My son hit him hard, and he found out, like, if I don't hit him hard, then I'm going to get hit hard. So I might as
mhm,
well turn it on. So once you give them enough success at one thing, then they just start building that confidence. And I think that's probably where most of these 10-year-olds and younger, most youth kids, they just don't have confidence in their body yet. And once they start building up their confidence, man, they get happy, they get excited, and then they start doing really good things, and they get more excited and more confidence. Once you get a kid's confidence built up, it's hard to stop them. It's like a train. It's really hard to stop them. And that's ultimately what we got to do in the youth leagues, is build their confidence up enough to where they go to high school and they feel confidence. Hopefully they get it knocked down a little bit the first couple of weeks, but then they
mhm.
got to build it back up to get to the next level too.
That's when they're running out the door to get to football practice. Be like,
Oh,
"Hey, mom, come on, we're gonna be late. Let's go. I don't
yeah,
wanna run."
yeah, I know. That's one thing that it's hard to find in younger kids, youth kids, because they don't have work ethic built up,
Mhm,
and that's essentially what I think football has probably did the best for me, is just build my work ethic. Because in high school, it was like always before we called it before and after. I was always before school, before practice. I always went after practice, and then I had practice during school, and that's why I was really successful, because I put the work in. And once you put the work in, man, these kids, they can do a lot more things in life, not just play sports. It's more about, like, am I going to be a good business owner? Am I going to be,
mhm.
stuff like that. That's Work ethic is a huge thing for me. That's what I like to build in these kids, is work ethic and confidence and things like that.
When I put my oldest son in football, and I didn't force him into it. I said, "Hey, you wanna play football?" He said, "Yeah, I think so." I didn't care if he ever played football beyond that one season. I wanted him, and this sounds cruel, but I really wanted him to just get his hand smashed between a helmet and then have 30 seconds to deal with it and be ready for the next play.
Yeah.
Like, that I think that's such a huge aspect of your mental makeup that a football player has, that, or particularly a hockey player, man, those guys get smashed in the face with a puck and miss one shift and they're back on the ice. A football player gets stepped on by a 280-pound guy on his pinky toe, and that hurts. There's no doubt that that hurts, but you have 40 seconds to deal with the pain, ignore the pain, get the play call, get set, and do the next do the next thing. And so if he just got his hand smashed, got up and went back in, played the next play, and that's all he learned from that season, I was happy with that. And that work ethic or that ability to endure hard things and do hard things at a young age, man, there's nothing better than football. Or
Overcome adversity.
maybe hockey. Maybe hockey. I'll give the hockey players that. Basketball, you're not getting it on a basketball court. You're not getting it on a baseball field where you can just stand there and catch the ball at first base and then throw it back to the pitcher. That ain't happening. There's nothing hard about that. It's fun. I like it. They're awesome sports to play. There's nothing physical about it that's going to push you back out there to do something that where it hurts. Drop in front of a slap shot and then have to skate down to the other end of the ice.
You asked me about like specific things I got to overcome.
Yeah.
Probably more than like the aggression or like those kind of things. The problem with youth sports that I have to overcome the most is the parents. Because me and you, it sounds like we're similar. I want my kid to get out there and I want him to go through things that he can overcome and be a better person after it. Whether it's every football play, he can go get something better, right? Most parents, they get hurt. They're pulling their kids out. They're screaming at the coaches, like, man, just let the kids play. Like, why? I think the parents need to ask themselves why their kids are playing football, right? Or any sport, but football in particular, because there is high chance probability that they're going to get hurt especially when they start at 7 years old, all the way until high school. That's 11 years that they got to play, and they're going to get hurt eventually. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Hopefully it's not as bad as some others, but they are probably going to get hurt. So why are you putting your kids in football? Is it so you can go put them on Instagram? Or is it because so you can tell your friends? Or if you really want them to learn something, let them learn, leave them alone. If they're hurt, we'll get the parents that need to be out there. But if they're like, are you hurt or injured? Hurt is like, I got my hand stepped on, I'll be all right. Injured is like, my leg's broken, I can't stand up, right?
Yeah.
So like we tell our kids, are you hurt or injured? Oh, I'm hurt, coach. Okay, cool. Go get some water. You got 2 plays. You're going back out there, right? Like that's the way I think we need to build up these kids' confidence, because then I can do a lot more than what I really thought I could. We're pushing them a little bit. So probably a bigger funnel than
that perspective of not every, particularly in the high school, the parent issue, and it filters down into the kids as well, is I'm D1. I want to be D1. I want to be D1. Again, go back to the pyramid. That pyramid gets skinnier at the top. There's 1 million plus kids playing football every year in the United States. What's the NFL? 32 times 50, 5, whatever that is. I don't know what that, 1,600 guys.
Yeah.
There's 1,600 guys playing professional football. Out of 1 million that played this year, there's going to be another 1 million that plays next year. There's 124, 3, 4, 5 Division I football programs that graduate probably 15 to 20 guys a year. That's 2,000 guys coming out every year to take the 256 positions that get drafted. Of those, well, I don't even know, 15%, 18% of the draftees make the team. You're talking about it's such a small fraction to make it to an NFL professional team. It's not as small, but a even smaller percentage, or there's a small percentage that make it to the college level. And then if you go look at some of these, go to a Division I football practice. They're a different species out there. They're the 6'2", 185-pound 10-year-old. They're the 250-pound 10-year-old that are just bigger now. And you can see the difference. And I mean, I played Division I football, 1AA football. I went to my college this fall. I was honored at a game this fall. I went to the game and I was standing on the sidelines and I was like, holy crap, I wouldn't be able to play here anymore, because I was the smallest guy on the sidelines, and I'm 6'3", 275. I'm not a small dude, but I was the smallest guy by far on the sidelines of all the guys that were playing offensive line. And I don't think people realize the perspective of what they want to have happen. They have this dream. They have these goals and desires for their kids to accomplish, and the kids have it as well. But good gosh, it's such an uphill battle. And you're right, man. What are you teaching your kid? You just want to be able to take a picture of him on the Friday Night Lights, standing on the field. You want to be the team mom?
Let them do it. That's it. It's fine. But they're going to get hurt. They are. It's going to happen. Just prepare yourself. I'm saying that. Try not to say it too loud. My wife's like right there.
Well, I mean, it's funny. We had this is going back probably 20 years ago, had a phenomenal football player. He's a freshman, sophomore, great football player. And his mom says, well, he's done playing after his sophomore year. And I went to her and I said, I'm not telling you how to parent. I'm curious well, he's a baseball player and he's a pretty good baseball player. He's got an opportunity to maybe play in college. I said, okay, you realize that there's 25 guys on a college baseball team, right? Yeah, 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 yeah. We do. I said, how many guys are on a college football team? 110 guys on a college football team. There's 4 times as many football players as there are baseball players in college. I said, ma'am, your son's a phenomenal football player. She's like, my son? No, no. He might get hurt. I said, you're right. He may get hurt. He ended up breaking his leg his senior year. He broke his tibia in his leg and missed 4 games. But he was smart, really smart, Ivy League smart. And I said, him being a football player is going to open doors for him at the next level because he's a great football player. She's like, you really think so? I said, I'm your son wants to play football. He's going to be pissed that you're not letting him play football. Let him play. Let's see how this plays out. He may or may not get hurt. Who knows? But he's going to have doors open. Sure enough, he gets to a senior, even with the broken leg, the side bone, it was like, I don't know, tibia, I think that's the smaller one. I don't know. Whatever the smaller bone in the leg was, he broke. And sure enough, he has 3 Ivy League offers to go play college football. Goes to Brown University, graduates from Brown with a finance degree, an Ivy League finance degree. He's making great money, has a great family, has 2 sons that live in our zone that are going to be big because his wife's 6 foot tall. They're going to be monsters. He was a big left tackle at Brown. And so she came to me after he graduated, and the family took me to a couple of his college games as a thank you because she said, I didn't believe you. I thought you were full of crap. But it was the best decision we ever made, leaving him in football with the people, the relationships he built, the influence he had with our coaching staff, and the accomplishments he had in college. He was all New England. Like he ended up being a great college football player too. But I had to talk her into it, and it was worth the conversation in his situation. But yeah, parents need to chill out a little bit and realize that you got to let them live. You can't be the snowplow, right?
I
The
mean,
snowplow parent's a dangerous one.
yeah, you got to let them. You got to let them do what they're going to do. Like it's just see where it goes, right? We try to make them as safe as possible, but it happens. Just leave them alone. Like stepped on
It's
fingers and stuff. Leave them alone.
it's hard to believe that an 8 or 9-year-old kid can generate enough force to hurt another 8 or 9-year-old kid on the football field.
I think there are more concussions in youth football nowadays than I
Really?
ever remember in high school. I remember getting a concussion in high school,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Okay, coach, everything's really bright." My
Mhm.
coach, like, "All right, go get some water," and then I was
Yeah.
right back up on the bag. Like,
Yeah.
but now these kids like hit each other, tap each other, and they're like concussion protocols and stuff, which is great, but sometimes it's like a little excessive. My little 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds getting concussion protocols from falling
Shoot, I
down.
played the second half. I don't even remember the first half, and they let me play the second half. When I
Good.
figured out what day it was, they're like, "Yeah, he's fine, going back in."
Yeah, yeah. But it's Sunday. Yeah, in a couple
Yeah.
days. You're good.
I said, "What day is that?" I said, "I know it's Saturday because we're playing football." That's about the only answer I got right out of the whole thing. They're like, "Yeah, he's good enough. Go ahead.
For
Go back
sure.
on in there."
Different,
So,
different.
coach, what when you get these guys around and you got them at practice, are their attention spans long? Like, how do you? I'm assuming the attention spans are tiny
Terrible.
and not long. So, how do you combat that? What do you do to? Are you changing drills constantly? Are you moving them around the field to make sure that they are any shiny object? I'm assuming is going to pull them away. How do you keep their attention?
Well, and so you can't. So, I mean, yes, a lot of the things that I do is we try to go to individuals and then I break them out into smaller groups. Right? So sometimes it's going to be every kid on a youth football team should be doing something in a drill. No kid should be watching
Mm,
everybody else's drill. So if you do have too many kids in your drill and you need another coach, like that's my opinion. So if I've got 10 kids, I need to have a drill that 10 kids are doing, right?
mhm.
Or at least 7 of them, and then someone else getting water or something like that. Like a whole huge portion of the kids have to be working and understanding what to do. Because as soon as you do, they're doing the 6-7 bull and they're running around and they're like dancing and like they're doing this like hand slap thing. I don't understand what they're doing. Their attention spans are so small at 10 years old.
Yeah.
I love the kids that I work with, and I got enough rapport with the parents. I can snap my fingers and they understand, like, oh, coach is for real now. But I mean, it's when you get a group of kids together, I don't care if they're high school or college, you get them comfortable enough, they start jacking around. I don't care. Like they will. It's just at college and high school, they're probably a little better about hiding it. At the 10-year-old, they're
It's out in the open.
they're just going to do it in front of you. So, but yeah, it's just getting them as many reps as possible, as much work in time as possible. So if I've got all the kids up there, now sometimes I got to break them out a little bit. but I make them involved sometimes. So like if I'm doing like a 5v5 drill, like fives, where I'm doing pass set work with one specific kid at a time, I will make the kids, hey, what did y'all see good about John? Like, right.
Mm,
And they're like, oh, well, he came out at a 45-degree angle. Oh, cool. So he did a really good angle. Or maybe they'll tell me like his hands were not placed right because they
mm,
understand. So now I got them involved in the coaching, and then I'll coach the kid up and say, hey, this is what I saw specifically, and then I can get them coached up. But if I can involve them, then they have to be involved because their attention span is horrible. If
yeah.
you, I see, sometimes I'll see like this last spring season, I saw a coach, and he's not a newer coach, but he's old school. He had and he had the 7-year-olds, and he had like 47-year-olds lined up, one kid doing a bag drill at a time. I was like, poor guy. Like he's not; those kids are not going to learn anything because
No.
by the time that the 40th kid gets up there, they have already lost. They had lost interest in everything. So spend as much time on the field as possible, and it helps with reps too. Rep. So
Yeah. Well, that sounds like, I mean, you had some success. It sounds like you're on to something there.
I hope so. I started off like coaching little kids a long time ago, and then I've been just doing it because I got my other kid comes through. But I just enjoy coaching kids because hopefully one day they'll coach the kid, and it's already happened to me. Where kid reaches out to me like, "Hey, coach, I just want to let you know, thank you. Like you taught me a lot." And this season particular, some of my older kids reached out to me because I don't live in Texas anymore. I'm originally from Texas. My Texas kids reached out to me and said thank you, and I learned a lot from you because of this. And that's what I just love that like feeling of teaching the kids something valuable in life.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
have success for sure.
And I got invited to a wedding this spring for one of our former players, that's happened a few times, and that's always cool to be able to see them progressing into adulthood and embracing the next generation. And it's fun because you kind of see some of the ideas that you were coaching with and trying to instill while you were coaching, and you had their undivided attention. That weren't just football lessons or life lessons, and you see that coming out. And when you get that wedding invitation, it's kind of cool
Yeah,
to to reflect back and see the time that the the care that you put into that. I don't know,
yeah,
that seed that you planted is kind of coming
absolutely.
to fruition there.
I think
That's kind of
coaching
cool.
kids, man, or coaching period, you have to almost care about that person or this person a little bit more than the normal person would care about that individual.
Hmm.
And so you put a lot of time and effort into it, and you begin a rapport, and you build some kind of bond with them. And man, it's pretty cool experience. That's why I just love. I think I told you in my initial call or my message text. I think my retirement plan is actually with coaching high school. Like
Yeah.
once I get done with retirement, I want to coach the high school level too. But right now I'm just doing the younger the kids. It's a lot more fun to me to push around 10-year-olds. They're not bigger than me. Most of them aren't bigger than me yet.
So they figure out they can dogpile you, and then you're
Yeah, I know.
that.
They try.
We used to do a summer camp for kids under. We couldn't do it for high school kids. So anybody that was in 8th grade or younger, we ran football camps for them, for the kids in our county. And at any one point in time, our head coach would be messing around. He'd send all the little kids. He always gave me the little kids because I had 5 kids. So I always had a little kid that I was with, and I communicated effectively with the little kids. Whereas he was like, he had all girls, so he didn't understand little boys and how they worked. And he would send me all the little ankle biters. And at any point in time after water break, he'd be like, "Hey, you know what Coach Horne loves? He loves it when you jump on him." And I'd be running around the field, and it looked like, there'd just be this swarm of little ankle biters. And one of them would grab me, and I'd shake him off. And then two, and by, probably about 7 or 8,
Oh,
it goes 500 guys or a gorilla, who's gonna win. And it's the 500 guys. I learned that early on with the ankle biters coming after you,
yeah.
for sure. All right, coach, you got some characters out there on the field. The offensive line at any level is usually full of characters. Any guys that you dealt with on your team that you just shook your head and laughed because it was how they looked at things? It's just a different perspective.
Well, I think that most of my offensive line, I think they're mostly like this one particular kid type thing.
Hmm.
And it's mostly like I'm very smart, funny, and I just love people is kind of who I deal with. And that's the kind of characters I have on my team. I think the offensive line is just a little bit more like kind of laid back. We joke a little bit more than the other,
Hmm.
but they're very smart for the most part. Running backs and quarterbacks there always like locked in, coach locked in. My linemen are always doing this stupid thing where they're laughing. And then they start, this is where the attention span is that you don't get them locked in right there. They just wonder when they're mind wonder. And that's the kind of kids that I get to deal with a lot. And I don't know, I feel like I love dealing with that. So I can deal with it. It's not a problem for me because that's, I guess, me. Like I'm funny kind of guy. I like to joke around. I'm serious when it's time to be serious. I like and I understand the game and play it, but I also understand that it's about having fun too. So
Yeah.
still a game for these kids. Not they're not getting paid yet. So
Yeah. It's funny. We always are, when our quarterback stepped into a huddle, he'd always say eyes. And once he said eyes, that was the key that you tuned in. You zoned in and heard the play and focused on what you had to do. Before that though, it was, I remember a clip. I don't remember. It was one of the offensive linemen with the 49ers. I don't remember which one it was. I think it was the right guard. And they were talking about the Super Bowl when Joe Montana, very first Super Bowl, they're standing there. It's the first play. Joe Montana's walking into the huddle with the play call, and he's just taking it all in. There's 80,000 people in the stands, and he's nervous. It's the Super Bowl, and they've never been to the Super Bowl, and all the pressure that packs in on those players. And Joe Montana walks into the huddle for the first play call, and he goes, "Oh, look, John Candy." John Candy's sitting in the stands in the front row of the Super Bowl, and Joe Montana saw him and said, "Oh, look, John Candy." And I wish I could remember which, it was the right guard. He was like blown away that Joe Montana is walking into the Super Bowl, the first play of the Super Bowl, and he's looking at John Candy up in the stands with all the stuff around, the coverages he's got to read and the plays he's got to make and the decisions he's got to make. And he's looking in the stands and is attuned to enough to know that that's John Candy sitting in the stands. I thought that was a great analogy of how offensive linemen, they're worried about different things. And if they're not focused on being goofy, then they're focused on playing hard. There's nothing in between. It's either goof or playing hard, killing somebody or goofing. And
100%. That's exactly what you have to do.
All right, coaches, we wind down here. I've started asking all my guests this, and this has kind of started as in the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 shows that I've recorded here, but I've found it really interesting. So I want you to go back to your playing days and your coaching days. We'll answer the same question here in a second. You're getting ready to take off the headphones and walk down the tunnel, going out into the stadium. You got to go get ready to do your Haka dance there before the game. What were you listening to? What was going on the headset before you walked out the stadium there?
I still play it to this day with my kids.
Oh, do you?
Phil Collins.
In the Air Tonight, the drum solo to get you going? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's still nowadays you're listening to that as a coach. Same thing?
Absolutely.
Cool.
So this year we took our championship team, our regional team, we rented a bus and everything. And I told the guy that was running the thing, I said, "You got to play this song." And he was like, "Absolutely." And then just look at all the kids. They just close their eyes, put their head, and then as soon as it goes, how did these 10-year-olds know this song?
Yeah.
But they get so high. There's nothing better about that song right there for me. I can't. There's another song. I don't like anything else. Just play that right before we walk out. Whether I'm a coach or a player, that's the song we need to play.
Oh, that's cool. I can't remember who, one of my former guests, and it might have been CJ Barner. I can't remember. I think it was him. He was talking about that was their song in high school, and that they still to this day. It's been, I don't know, 20 years. They still play that song when the guys walk out. Yeah. And he loved it back then. He still loves it now. I always thought that was interesting. And somebody had mentioned it earlier in one of my shows, and I was like, it's pretty cool. I want to know. You've had somebody said gospel, somebody else was like country, somebody else was like whatever, hip hop. It's been all sorts of different answers. Nothing the same except the Phil Collins "In the Air Tonight" song with the drum solo going. That's pretty cool.
I remember going to the state championship playoffs and my coach putting that on, and we were sitting in the Dallas Cowboys stadium back when it was in Irving, Texas, where it's at now. And that song was on, and I was sitting in Larry Allen's his spot. By the way,
that's cool.
It's like a board they sit on, but his spot went like this. So I remember that so vividly.
He was a big man.
Yeah.
That's funny. We had, when I was in probably, I guess it was my redshirt freshman year, we went to the Citrus Bowl and we played Central Florida this is back when they were still 1AA. We were, I don't remember what we were like the 7th or 8th, 6th ranked team in the country. And we had an away game in the playoffs for the second round of the playoffs. We had to go to Orlando because the way they did it back then, the schools would bid on how many tickets they would sell, and their stadium was bigger than ours, so they could have a higher bid. So we had to go to I think they were the 18th ranked team in the country or whatever. And they thoroughly whooped our tail. Mark Giacone was a running back, and he ran for like 700 yards or something like that against us, just killed us. But we get down there, and it was the song that they played coming out of the tunnel was Back in Black by AC/DC, and they were all coming out. They had black helmets, black jerseys, black pants, black long sleeves. They were wearing black sunglasses, and they just came out. And it was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen when we got down in there. And you hear that guitar riff coming out at the beginning of the song, and they came out of the locker room, and I looked down the other end of the field, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Factor.
I was like, that's not fair, man. that's so not fair. All right, Coach.
School with black, so we got to play the East Back in Black a lot.
So, yeah. Well, we lost that game later in my career. I got to go back to the same stadium, the Citrus Bowl in 2007. We got to win the state championship, and I was in the same locker room that we lost and ended my freshman redshirt season. In that locker room, we got to go. I was in the exact same locker room, and we got to come back in as state champ. So it has a happy ending there at the end. It all rounded itself out. All right, Coach. So as these guys get in, and they're up in Utah, what part of Utah are you in?
I live in Salt Lake.
Salt Lake. Okay, so if they're talk about what you got going towards the end of next year when this U10 FBU team starts out again, we'll finish. I'll give you the last couple minutes there, and you can kind of talk about that. If anybody's up in Salt Lake and they're interested in this and they need more information, where can they go and get information about what you're doing with those guys?
Yeah. Obviously, you can look up FBU and find our regional director. You can send messages to all kinds of pages out there. My personal page is Dominate the Line. I do some trainings for fun, have youth trainings all season, but mostly it's just me to post videos, be funny. I love it. I started it kind of like in August. I'm at like 4,000 followers, but
wow.
You can go there and ask, and I can set you up with whoever, 10-year-olds, 9-year-old. I will find the director that you need to talk to. But I mean, you can just Google search FBU and they'll find you the director for this. His name is Ben, and he's a Brighton coach, which Utah, we're a little bit smaller than Florida and Texas. I found out. But yeah, if someone wants to get on that FBU team, just reach out to any coaches. Your regional coaches should absolutely know who to reach out to also, because if you're playing football, I'm probably playing against you anyways. So you just have to go figure out what team you're on. And we all have contact information for almost every team in the Valley. If you're in the Southern Utah area, we have our Southern Utah FBU team also down in Mesquite, and you just get the regional guy and they'll hook you up with whoever you need to go to get to those teams. But it's a lot of fun. Just go see if your kid can compete with them. It doesn't matter. Like, just go see if they can compete. That's what it's all about. It's competing.
Give them the experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you guys have any FBU combines up there in Salt Lake in that area?
Specifically, we will post. We'll usually make an FBU page, like my FBU 10U, just like FBU 10U West team or something like that. Don't have to look it up, but we'll make posts and we'll post them on our Utah football page, and it's a whole football page just for Utah. There's like so many people on that Facebook group. We'll put out there. We can't do any practices before November 1st, but we'll start having tryouts probably mid-season of our regional teams, which is usually around September. We'll start having tryouts, and then once we have tryouts, then start filtering more kids in and just get more kids to have fun.
That's awesome. And next year's your year. You're going to get Gwinnett Football League and show them a thing.
Yeah. Now, yes, we're going to see. We're going to see.
You need to hit that Polynesian neighborhood up a little bit more. Bring some of those bigger kids out there.
Yeah, we got some big kids, but those kids were massive. So, but I'm ready to go back again. Win or not, I want to compete with that team again and again and again until my 8-year-old or my eighth grade team, the FBU team, they played Gwinnett also, and they lost. So we both got second place.
Oh,
now, so like GFL got it. Like, they're a good team, but we're coming. Utah's coming for them, I promise.
Well, that's awesome. And to build that little rivalry up between the two areas, that's even neat too. And those kids are going to see each other throughout the rest of their careers. It's funny how the kids at those elite levels, they'll go on to the elite colleges and elite high schools, and they're going to continue to see each other throughout I remember we played against each other in 8th grade down in Naples. Remember that? Oh, yeah. So those experiences will be something that they'll share throughout that cohort group as they get older and progress through the various football levels,
For sure.
which is awesome. And it's neat that you're giving them that experience. And as we close here, I just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. It's been fun to get that perspective, man. Those little guys, they just are out there having fun. And you forget as you get to the upper levels, sometimes you're focusing on how can I squeeze that little bit of juice out of that guy? How can I get him to perform a little better, get him in the weight room? You're spending all year developing guys and trying to angle and hone and just get them to where they need to be. So you have this performance that comes out in the fall and peaks at a state championship level. And there's only a handful of teams that get to win that last game and walk off on a high note. The fun and the joy of being that team's awesome. And the disappointment of being second is real also. But with that comes perspective as well. And being there and having the opportunity to compete, as frustrating and as disappointing as it is, it's still really fun to be able to have that opportunity and go through it.
Competing is fun.
That's awesome. Well, as we conclude here, Lord, Dustin, I just want to say thank you again and remind everybody, if you master the trench, you'll win the war.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Hope you're enjoying Trenchometry. Assuming that you are, please hit that like button and subscribe. Remember, master the trench, you win the war.